you will know what it is like to wake up in the morning but still feel half asleep. And you've seen people, no doubt you've seen people on their way to work, and you might say, yes, of course they are alive, but they look half dead. Maybe they are bored, maybe they are loaded with too much work, too many anxieties, or they've not got their life together. From the teenager through to the elderly and the old, all of us, we would like to revoke those dark clouds of the doldrums. We would like to be able to inspire a few people, wouldn't we? We'd like to be able to grab hold of the energies of enjoyment and motivation. We'd like to walk with an aura of charisma around us and be the focus of a good influence, be celebrants of life, life's brevity and life's urgency, wouldn't we? And especially so as we see people being rescued from the rubble of the aftermath of Turkey's East Side earthquake. Especially as we recognize the groundswell of protest over the lopsided distribution of the world's wealth. And especially as we see ourselves and others become experts in our job, high achievers in our work, but how we lose control over the focus of our energies, our moods, and our life altogether. The therapies have ways of helping us cope better, bringing some soothing to our damaged parts, and sorting out our goals and our life priorities. But theology, what's it got to do with it? Most people think it's totally irrelevant. And yet somewhere there we talk theology without us knowing that we're doing so. Theology speaks to the expansion and the growth of the human spirit and the need for that energy of a new faith that brings us out of those doldrums and lifts us to a new sense of being here. Not so much over there or out there, a strong awareness of being who we really are, being here, having a belonging, being alive, becoming a more fulfilled person. Theology has a lot to say about that, even though we've stopped listening. But for all that, we know that a sense of fulfillment and a sense of achievement can be there one moment, and it can quickly flip into frustration and discontent the next. Fulfillment. Where is it? Alain de Botton, in one of his broadcasts, looks with some awe at the exalted status of an airline pilot. And as he reflected on the airline pilot, he thought he too must be capable of petulance, of vanity, of acting foolishly, or making casually cruel remarks to his spouse, or neglecting to understand his children. But at the same time, I wanted to believe in the capacity of certain professions that enable us to escape the ordinary run of our frailties and accede, if only for a moment, to a more impressive sort of existence than most of us will ever know. Well, I am optimistic about that. I believe we all want to walk taller. We might not always want to say it in those words. I wish we would. I often say to some of my patients at the other place, we live in 3 stories. Yes, we do something, we have a feeling, but we forget to say it. Doing, feeling, and saying it. And so we often fail to say, yes, I would like to walk taller. We're all capable of our dash of uniqueness. We've all got a little charisma. Some of us have a big chunk of charisma within us that ought to be expressed and enjoyed. We want to get a glimpse of that pathway through our many scattered activities so that we realize, yes, there is something worthwhile here within us. Yes, there are some highly significant moments right for me. Yes, there is a gold thread running through things that gives special focus to my life. Somewhere here, I touch the fringes of my fulfillment. And I want to do that, don't you? Don't you? Like the finale of a great symphony, all the parts come together, giving it its completion, its wholeness, its vital celebration. So our fulfillment, where is it? It sees our satisfactions over there greater than our frustration. Fulfillment sees our contentment greater than our distress or disquiet. Fulfillment sees our sense of completion greater than all our bits and pieces. It sees our sense of self-importance greater than our sense of alienation. For many of us, I know, the sense of fulfillment is unreal because the demands of the bits and pieces are so much always there. Because the parts are so powerful that they refuse to come together. Or they may be so severed that they can never come together. So the therapy and the theology need to come together in a conversation that will speak of healing and hope, that will speak of faith in the future, that will speak of friendship and fulfillment, finding they can both meet in a special moment. So if you don't accept that as a reality, let me then invite you to pretend. Pretend for the next few minutes. Let us pretend that everyone would like to find that sense of fulfillment in their life. That sense of getting the parts of your life together into a focused and satisfying whole, where you know that that's what it's like. Life has many parts, but here, life in all its fullness, to use the words of the scriptures I read today. How do we get there? Life in all its fullness. Well, I think we need to regain faith, a new faith in that possibility, in that reality of our own fulfillment. If you don't have faith in that possible fulfillment, is it any wonder you won't go there? Life's fragmentations run very deep. As you heard the poem, the Neruda poem say, our days are organized around the fragments. We know we have a time to work, a time to eat, a time to sleep, a time for the family this minute, a time for the friends that minute, a time for sport over here, no time for that over there. And at any moment, we can get fixed in one of those fragments and never really consider how those fragments might contribute to our fulfillment. Therapy is needed to help us sort out the anxieties and the emotions that cluster around and cling on to those fragments. But where will theology become relevant? Where will it? At every funeral over which I preside, I hear the fragments being traversed, the fragments of her life, as different people tell of the fragment that they knew of a life that was much bigger than any one of the fragments, or even all of the fragments. So I listen very carefully to hear her life's joyful pathway. Was it? I listen to hear the extent of her charisma that she built up over the years, the love she showed, and the love people showed her. And what was their fulfillment? their completion, their faith in each other. I regularly read, as some of you know, the memorial notices in the psychoanalytic journals, as one analyst recalls his friend. Recently, Dr. David Ingram, American, wrote of his friend, Dr. Jules Bemparad, who died in just June this year at the age of 74. So, Dr. Ingram gave the fragments where his friend was born, where he trained, what he achieved, the fragments. But then he said, Jules was always helpful in his insights. He cut through all the puffery and baloney to what was essential. And here was his particular gift, he said. I always waited for Jules' comment because I knew it would be to the point, thoughtful, perceptive, and honest. And his chuckle stays with me to this day. I thought the last comment was very special because psychoanalysts in this country have long since given up the idea of chuckling. And sometimes I find theologians gave up long before them. So we need to hear the chuckles. But did you hear these words? Thoughtful, perceptive, honest. In the contribution he made to the lives of others. And his abiding chuckle. Marks of the fulfilled life. Completed. Or secondly, let me take you through this part of the story. As I've already said, we all surely want a sense of fulfillment. But it rarely comes as a sustained experience. It is more likely to be found in moments of special significance. We sometimes stumble on those moments. And when we do, I hope that you rejoice in them. Daniel Gilbert called his book Stumbling on Happiness. And some of you know that Dr. Lynette Kramer in her Mingri seminars used that book last year. Well, Daniel Gilbert in the book says at one point that we'll find ourselves talking about what will be the best moment of our life somewhere in the future, later. And he wrote, between our high chairs and our rocking chairs, we learn about later. Later. What a fabulous discovery later is. What kind of life would we have if we were trapped always in this perpetual now and that we could not envisage a later? And if we're not thoughtful, we might leave our fulfillment until we get to later, too late. Stumble on a little bit of fulfillment in the now and leave more of it to come later. But make sure we have now and later special moments. Thirdly, I wonder if you have this version of my book, Discover a New Faith, because there are two versions. The other version had the book is the same, but the cover is different. One cover had the tapestry from over here on the page, on the front cover. But this cover, did you happen to wonder, what is that about? What is this about? There it is. Out of the surrounding darkness, there is this intense red and orange orb. And right in the middle of the orb, there is this even more intense glow. A light is shining. Now, you can make what you like of it, of course, but I see it as a warm, golden glow of a new faith being born within us, within the human scene. A golden glow of an inner presence. A golden glow of an energy that flows out. Yes, the fulfillment of life does depend on growth and healing, on the therapies to find a better way to live. But the theologies speak of a light shining in the darkness, of hope when hope has been lost a while, of energy, the energy of a new faith coming to us after we think that all faith has been depleted. A new faith energy lifting us back into the stream of life. Paul Laughlin, one of the scholars of the International Scholars of the Jesus Seminar, wrote his articles of faith, 9 of them. He put them all in heavy theological language, but listen to number 2 and see if we can make something of it. He says, I believe in nature and humanity as manifestations of the God whose pervasive presence and power are active and unfailing, though often subtle and elusive. So in those words, he's pointing to that inner presence, that inner power. It is subtle and elusive, and therefore needs specific individual and communal practices for us to be aware of it. And so he commends the gathered ritual, the gathered worshipping community. It is easy, you see, for us to lose sight of that presence, that inner glow, that important new faith, and we let it fade, or it might even vanish and have no further influence in our life, whatever. But in the golden glow of the light, we have one further symbol of God, the Spirit in life, the good Spirit, dwelling within our humanity, ever encouraging our inquiry, our evolution, our exploration of the part that we might have as we move towards our individual and our corporate fulfillment. That glowing symbol reminds us, I hope, that a new faith is an energy, expanding and enriching, an exciting, ongoing, and ever-changing existential journey towards our fulfillment. And fourth, fulfillment can also be a meeting of the mind and the spirit. As George Stewart said, it's an in-betweenness. Martin Buber said, it's I and thou. And many people will say, don't they? You might say it, I really need another person in my life. I cannot be a fulfilled person without that other person. Sometimes you might find that that might have been a good idea, but might not have worked out quite so well in practice. So often we say, yes, the other person, I need the other person, but the need may preclude that vital meeting of mind and spirit. And in some instances, that individual need and its expression may actually destroy the desired meeting of mind and spirit. If you've read Dr. Zhivago, Boris Pasternak's Dr. Zhivago, you'd know that there are many very powerful meetings occurring through that story. But he doesn't forget to put a meeting, another one of those meetings, right at the very last page. On a quiet summer evening in Moscow, the two friends, two men, sat at a window high above that immense city, spreading away into the dusk. The two friends, aware of the terrible experiences they'd been through the Revolution and through the Second World War, they sat in quietness. And here are his words. It seemed that a freedom of the spirit was there, that on that very evening, the future had become almost tangible in the streets below, and that they had themselves entered the future and would from now on be part of it. They felt a peaceful joy for this holy city and the whole land, and for the survivors among those who had played a part in this great story. It was as if the silent music of happiness filled them and enveloped them and spread far and wide. And the two men sitting side by side knew that they were enriched by it. So how do people become whole after living a life fragmented and scattered in a society of difference in politics, difference in philosophies, ethnic groups, cultural groups, religions, educational differences, personal and existential awareness at a difference? How can we speak of wholeness or societies embracing an intelligent fulfillment? Therapy and theology are both required for this, to encourage human beings to rise above their fears and anxieties that seem to keep them in their fragments. We need therapy and theology to help us all reach out to what a human being can become, to their full individual identity, to their meeting of mind and spirit in friendship, and to the practice of community and compassion. Fulfillment points to that process and to that pathway that we'd all want to be on, opening us all to that, in our sameness and in our difference, to our growth, a growth of the self, and the growth of our belonging in life and in our relationships and in all of our differences. So I think we all want that fulfillment, that fulfilled life. And here are my 5 points that I've put to you today. It consists of a thoughtful, perceptive, honest contribution to the lives of others. We find our fulfillment in that. It comes in moments of special significance. It is there in the awareness of a warm, enriching inner spirit, pervasive, elusive, and powerful. It is there as a spirit of freedom and friendship. And that spirit carries that silent music of happiness that can spread far and wide. And fifth, it is found in our pluralistic, globalized world. Fulfillment searches for the best the human being can become and the best human society that is possible. And when Jesus said, "I am come that you might have life and have it in all its fullness," he was pointing to that, pointing to the best human being and to the best a human society can become.